What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Here I have the Bend Book Pro right here. It's bent, and that bend was not for me. It was like that when I got it, but this was caused by me. The reason it's like that is because I decided to use it as a bottle opener. I want it to still work when I'm done with this. And I may or may not have spilled Coke all through this this hole. It turns out that a MacBook does not work all that well as a bottle opener. There it goes! I did it! And at this point, you may be thinking, what in the brain-damaged, talentless TikTok influencer crap did I click on? Well, that's a good question. People don't want content. They want to see you opening bottles with Apple products. And I went down this whole rabbit hole, or bottle hole, of opening bottles with Apple products. It's as simple as taking your bottle with the Apple iPod mini case, turning it over like this, and bang. You've just opened yourself a bottle. Wow, be amazed, guys. I am impressive. And of course, opening bottles with all these Apple products eventually led to the MacBook because, well, I'm just looking for Apple products I have that have holes in them I can use as a bottle opener. I didn't want to use the actual MacBook part of the MacBook to open a bottle because I didn't necessarily want to destroy a MacBook. Anything with an Apple logo is precious, as we all know. Seeing as this is one of the original MacBooks from before the iPhone was released, it actually has, well, expandability. The bottle opener that's built into this MacBook is actually an expandable port where you can actually add certain ports to the MacBook. Imagine that. Apple actually having expandability. This MacBook is also quite nice because of how the battery comes out. I mean, imagine if you could actually change the battery on your MacBook that easily nowadays. But the real question now is, does the MacBook still function as a MacBook after unlocking its bottle opening capabilities? You may have seen with the iPod mini, this is still a full bottle of Coke because we didn't spill nearly a fifth of it all over the table in the process, because actually it's quite terrible to open a bottle with the MacBook hole because you don't really have any leverage at all. It's very, very thin aluminum. You can't really get a grip on the edge of the bottle cap, meaning you're more or less prying it off rather than opening it. So you notice how the cap was completely obliterated by the end. In that process, as you're literally tipping the Coke bottle into the MacBook in order to open it, not only does Coke go on the table, it goes into the MacBook hole. If you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. But to my surprise, after plugging this MacBook in, it pretty much immediately turned on. There doesn't appear to be any damage from the Coca-Cola. There wasn't a whole lot that went in the MacBook, but there was still some. Although, the nice rattling sound from the MacBook being physically bent is still there. You can actually hear how it's the left fan that's making the most noise. I wouldn't have expected the left fan to be the one making more noise because it's actually bent on the right. And if you look at the bend there, you can tell right where it's bent. That's where the battery compartment is, and that's a weak point because there's actually a hole on the bottom of the MacBook because of that. But let's be clear, it's not that weak. Even though this MacBook doesn't look like MacBooks you might be familiar with, it still has Apple build quality, and whatever made this MacBook be that bent, it was a significant amount of force. I feel like I shouldn't really leave this thing plugged in so long while it's still so bent because it can't be good for it, right? Now we know that Coca-Cola didn't cause any more problems, but there's still plenty wrong with this MacBook. It dies when it's unplugged, it doesn't hold itself open, it doesn't lock itself shut. If you didn't know, old MacBooks actually locked the lid shut instead of the magnets you might be familiar with. It has a permanently depressed power button, there's cosmetic flaws everywhere, and I mean everywhere, but it does work. So the MacBook does in fact do the MacBook stuff, and that is good. Speaking of cosmetic flaws, I didn't know this, but it's possible to etch this MacBook with Sharpie. The more you know, because I have another MacBook, the same type as this one, except I wrote Sharpie on it. This was for a YouTube short, of course, because isn't short form content where all dumb ideas originate? I was testing this marker here and comparing it to the suspiciously named Magnum Sharpies. Get it? They're Magnum because they're big, which I only bought because I thought the name was funny. I thought it would make for God tier's level of content to write giant markers all over this MacBook with the Apple logo prominently in view. At first, I just wrote one line with each marker. Obviously, you can tell the Magnum Sharpie is a lot darker. Anyway, after that, I went a bit crazy and wrote all over the MacBook. And when I stopped recording, to my annoyance, I discovered that rubbing alcohol removed the marker, but there was still an impression of what the marker left. And obviously, if I knew that no amount of rubbing alcohol would get the Sharpie off of the MacBook, then I wouldn't have done it. But that's not the worst of it. You notice how that looks awfully like a water spot, like from when water evaporates all the way down to nothing? I accidentally spilled water on this MacBook, and I didn't know that until it was gone. The MacBook was living on a crevice on my shelves on top of some drawers, because it was a crevice the size of a MacBook. Seeing as I have a lot of MacBooks, I tend to shove them in MacBook-sized crevices. But unfortunately for this guy, I spilled some water and didn't realize it was a lot. I thought it was just a bit, so I wiped it up above, but didn't realize the MacBook was sitting in water for days. And that's why I wanted to take this MacBook apart to see if there was any damage. 2 screws in the battery compartment, another 2 next to the RAM, and then there's 4 on the very back of the computer. In this case, 3 because 1 is missing. And then there's 4 on the side of the computer, along with 2 on the back by the hinge. And then the other side has another 4 screws as well. It's quite a process to open this Mac up, but fortunately when I got inside, I didn't see any damage, although I saw lots and lots of dust, because in a previous life, this guy was used quite a lot. And what I was curious to see was underneath the hard drive if there was any water spots like on the top, but thankfully not. So it doesn't seem like much water got inside the Mac. The main reason I was so worried about this MacBook being water damaged is because when I took it out of its spot and discovered the water, it literally was dripping wet from the bottom. And I feared the worst, a dead MacBook, but actually it works. Oh. It's turning on. That I was not expecting. So it seems like I got a bit lucky with this one, since none of the water actually went inside. But we still have the Sharpie stains, skid marks, and stuff. It's unsightly. Enter aluminum automotive polish. Yes, it's for vehicles. We're going to polish the MacBook. What's gonna happen? I have no idea. And before I can rub my white stuff all over the MacBook, we have to prepare the surface using some rubbing alcohol, which is supposed to remove the Sharpie, but it doesn't make any difference. I rubbed it in with circular motions for what felt like forever until eventually I was ready to wipe it off. And the Sharpie stains are gone. And if not for the little doodly-doo on the Apple logo, you might not believe it's the same computer. But it wasn't completely perfect, so I decided to hit it with another round of polish. Because whenever you're automotive polishing your MacBook, you want to make sure you do a good job. Just a little tip. I'm sure that's very relatable. The polish did much better than I thought it would. Not only did it remove the Sharpie, it looks much, much nicer than it did. It can't remove the deep scratches, but it worked wonders with this 19-year-old MacBook Pro. After a close inspection, it turns out the Sharpie Book Pro is a little bit lower of a spec than the Bend Book Pro. On many of these old Macs, you can find information about what specs it shipped with from the factory. From this, we can tell that my bottle opener cost almost $4,000 in 2025 money. And as you can see, the Bend Book Pro has slightly faster CPU speeds, although they're both painfully obsolete in 2025. I'm not going to plug our bottle opener back in until we can fix it properly, but let's have a quick look at the Sharpie Book Pro. The hard drive is working, but it is making a bit of a weird sound. Guys, I think it might be dying. The power source is the power adapter. It's not charging the battery at all, which is weird because it doesn't even have that many cycles. About the same as my M1 MacBook Pro. And you can actually take the battery out while it's turned on without affecting the MacBook because the battery is not doing anything. It's just adding weight and I suppose thermal mass to dissipate the heat to improve our gaming performance. It's wanting me to insert the original disc for Civilization 4, but I realized that the circular disk drive is dead. So I'll grab this USB disk drive and plug it right on in. The Mac DVD for Mac gamers. This game is a year older than our Mac here. Yes, that's right, it's 20 years old, and I love testing it because it's just such a good game. Who needs Civilization 7, am I right? The intro video is always slightly laggy on these old Macs. This can of Bush's Baked Beans wants you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Old gaming Macs always seem to struggle with Civilization 4. You'll notice when my guy moves around, it's a little stuttery, and also when I look around the map, it kind of stutters, and it's not a great sign when you haven't explored any territory at all, and your gaming Mac's practically giving up, and in the globe view, there's a graphical glitch. That's Franklin Roosevelt's tie! I'm just glad that I didn't completely destroy these Macs, especially this one, which was the Sharpie Book Pro, the one I accidentally spilled water on. That wasn't even for content. That was just me at my industrial shelving nightstand spilling my water just before bed. It was not for content. And the reason I have an industrial shelving nightstand is because I had to buy that to store all the stuff I buy for my videos. It's all for content, and if you want to support me and help make these videos possible, you can pledge on YouTube or Patreon today, or you're bad. Just kidding. You can just subscribe Subscribe or your bats, support me if you want to, and every time I make a video, there's also a supporter video. Originally, the supporter video was going to be gaming on the 24-year-old Power Mac G4, but it decided not to cooperate, and the whole recording turned out to be unusable, so instead I'm playing Civilization 4. Enjoy the 8-hour video, members. See you guys next week for another video.